So it's human nature to blame when things aren't going the right way. It's amazing how we tend to want to deflect and blame something else, whether it's people, whether it's the process, or whether it's the environment. But great leaders take ownership. They take ownership of the situation and they recognize that something went wrong. And it means that either it was because an individual didn't do what they should do, but it's a learning opportunity and they accept it as a learning opportunity. Or they recognize that the process either wasn't defined or wasn't executed well, in which case it's time to communicate and to clarify the process, and maybe requires a little bit more practice. Or it was the environment. Something in the environment went haywire or didn't work in conjunction with what we wanted to achieve, and it didn't work out right. It was the environment. It's not a people issue. It wasn't a process issue. It's just something that happened. So I was reminded last week as I was visiting with the store how this can happen, because for a long time now that I've been visiting the store, there's been a frustration amongst customers and even amongst the receptionist and other people answering the phone when they transfer calls to service, that the service advisors aren't answering the phone. And it rings and customers are complaining and saying, is there anybody even there? And the first instinct, it seems, in human nature is to say, those guys, why don't they answer the phone? Don't they care about the customer? But here's the interesting thing. Owners own it. Owners stop, look at the situation, and reflect on three critical areas. They look at, what are the people issues? Do the people care? Are the people putting in the necessary effort? Are they focused? Or is there a process issue? Have we talked about how we do what we do? Or is there a gap and there's not a good understanding of how the process should work, how the phone should transfer from one place to another? Or if an advisor has a customer in front of them face-to-face, that the priority is the customer that's in front of them and secondary to the phone. But if they don't have a customer in front of them, they're trying to do some paperwork, that they jump on the phone and that process suggests only one or two rings before they answer it. Or is it an environmental issue, which is the phone system itself? And interestingly, as we started to dig into the people, the process, and the environmental issues last week, and went granular. This is not just assuming. Be very careful not to assume. Everybody can assume that the phone system is working the way it's supposed to work. Here's the interesting thing. I went right to the grassroots and I said, what are all the different service numbers? And then I started to call the numbers and to see how they were being answered. How many rings would it take? Who would answer it? How was it being transferred? And here's what I found. One of the transfers was taking place the way it should, from the receptionist to a BDC person. But when the BDC person was on the phone, it would ring a number of times before it transferred over to the advisors and go round robin there. Most of us would say it's reasonable that it'd be 3 or 4 rings. This rang 13 times, and the BDC person didn't know that was happening. But before it would transfer over to the advisors, when that BDC person was on the phone, it rang 13 times. It was a system issue. We didn't take a look into all these things. And so it's a leadership issue. And we as leaders need to work with our people and understand, is it a people issue? If we're confident it's not a people issue, then let's look at the process. Let's get together in a meeting. Let's talk about the process and make sure the process is working the way it should. And if it's not, let's test our systems. Let's make sure that the phone system is working the way it's expected. How many rings? Let's define it. Let's write it out and make sure that we know it's transferring between which people and that we know how many rings between transfers. So slow down, look at it from the right perspective, check out the people issues, check out the process issues, check out the environmental or system issues. And I'm sure you'll find the solutions that will help you not only to be less frustrated, to do a whole lot less finger pointing and to do a better job of looking after your customers.